Show, tuning up, Kip Sabian here, the former world champion.
If you come at the king, you best not miss.
Acknowledge us.
Hey, guys, we're at the Red Carpet Ring. We'll talk about who had the best wrestling ratings this week, who had the best numbers. Let's get the lights as we come into the ring. We are talking about the recent episode of NXT, the week after The Rock put out record-breaking numbers. This will be for January 14th. Now, we're talking about the NXT episode. It said the ratings were pulled in for viewership numbers. It pulled in 798,000 and a 0.2 in key demographic 18 to 49. It said it was increased 40%, but it did pull a lower viewership demographic. It still was lower than last week, but still impressive numbers despite no big star being there, because they had almost a million views. I think 957 the week before. But it also says here that it was also up there with the episode of Randy Orton being on there, and it said the viewership of that episode was also good as well. They talk about October 8th when it first went to CW. And also says here that with the YouTube channel, he pulled 810,000 views of The Rock, but still averaging 779,000, not 798. It's an average. It says 798 overall, but 779 average, but still very, very good numbers for NXT, guys. And also it says here that it's been seen to will continue to have a hot streak into WrestleMania season. And you know, they have NXT Stand Deliver. Now, this was the match card. Obafemi, new champion. Roxanne spoke. Julia didn't speak, but they advertised for some reason. I spoke about that in my video for NXT. Also, it says here, if you look, there were good moments here. You had the Shotzi winning #1 contendership. You had Jakara and Lash, a great tag team match. You also had Roxanne and Bayley. Bayley made an appearance on NXT, you know, making her first time coming to NXT in forever. She confronted Roxanne. It seemed like those two are going to have a tease feud at some point. And we know later that week, Roxanne Perez was on SmackDown while Bayley had her last match on SmackDown against Tiffany Stratton for the WWE Women's Championship. We know that Bayley's is moving back to Raw, and there will be a future match between Roxanne and Bayley. If not, of course, interaction I see at the Royal Rumble. But NXT still pulled out a good, solid episode. I still see a lot of stories building. Ethan Page is another thing I mentioned. He's still building that character. He had an interaction with Javon Evans. So those two are definitely going to keep going at it. Expect the match between Javon Evans and Ethan Page at Vengeance Day. That's the next PLE coming up for NXT. That's coming up very soon. Normally, it runs in February, but I believe that would be a good thing to set up these storylines. That's why it's going so well right now. I would say that'd be a good thing, because I know Vengeance Day will be February 15th, 2025, but they steady keep going. NXT, though, and it's so good now that NXT does not need a big name to pull ratings. But let's talk about Dynamite. This is for the 15th of January. Let's talk about that episode. Let's see if the viewership came in. This was Maximum Carnage. Now, it says, according to Wrestlenomics, AEW Dynamite was 679,000. It's a 10% increase from the 610 from the week before, 13% boost. It also says here, Maximum Carnage had Dynamite in Cincinnati, Ohio. We had Kenny Omega made his in-ring return to AEW. And then also here, we did also have Megan Banks show up in the Women's Battle Royal for the #1 contender. We had her. We had other stars, Toni Storm. Now, it says here it was 679,000. It did not include the Max streaming platform. Also here, it said it pulled a 0.17 on January 8th to 0.18. So demographic went up a little bit. That's good. But AEW, they still got confused the storylines. I don't get it. This is the match card here. You had Moxley vs. Powerhouse Hobbs, AEW World Championship, Cage versus Omega, Christian Cage versus Hook. Then we also had other stuff going on that episode. Of course, I mentioned earlier already, we do have Women's Casino Gauntlet match. Then a Private Party 6-man versus her Syndicate. There's with Mark Briscoe. But AEW, I will say the most cringe thing I saw in this episode was the whole Jeff Jarrett and MJF promo. MJF, this is 2025. You've been doing the same promos that you always got to take a personal way to insult someone on every promo. You always got to mention their wife or their family or someone close to them. You mentioned Jeff Jarrett's wife, Karen Jarrett. Then you mentioned his friend that passed away over 25 years ago in the name of Owen Hart, who never even wrestled in AEW. Like, you really went that deep to drag someone out the grave to mention them. Now, I know he's only mentioned when it comes to Owen Hart Cup tournament that they run annually, but come on, MJF, real seriously. Then Moxley and his character, that Powerhouse Hobbs, that was a trash main event. That main event didn't do nothing. That was a bad main event. And then we saw Cope now, the Raw Superstar Cope and FTR come out after Powerhouse Hobbs was attacked after the match. After, of course, we know Jon Moxley get his stable to interfere. Marina Shafir hit Powerhouse Hobbs in a suitcase on his head during the match. That caused Moxley to hit a paradigm shift, or whatever he calls that move now, to win and retain his title. And it's the same old song and dance on AEW. It's like no efforts put into these storylines. They all do the same thing. MJF been doing the same thing since 2019. Moxley been doing the same thing since he got there. He's just a heel now instead of a baby face. Instead of the Blackpool Combat Club, now it's the, Riders, whatever. I mean, come on. I mean, they got to really elevate the storylines. And they really lost that storyline when Cody Rhodes left in 2022 to return to WWE. They really had a lot with Cody. He was a true gem for that company. And unfortunately for AEW, they would not get that back. Not now, if not ever again. But other than that, though, they still put a good viewership for that episode. It was a special episode, Maximum Carnage. I don't know what they're going to do this week. They also had Maximum Carnage on Collision. We'll see what's going to happen this week. I think they have their card updated for this upcoming week, Dynamite. But other than that, though, NXT is still building. They just announced a partnership with TNA. As a matter of fact, speaking of which, TNA had their event last night. It's called TNA Genesis, which Joe Hendry became the new TNA World Champion. We saw Cora Jade at that event. We saw Ashanti Adonis at the event. We saw the NXT Tag Team Champions, Fraxium, at the event. So this TNA NXT partnership is good, and it's only going to get better. It's going from good to very good, and it'll be great, and then it'll be superb. Because they steady trying to get better each day. AEW, I don't know what to say about you. I feel like you guys are just doing this one-off match. You're doing everything for a quick pop or this quick audience that you cater to, the IWC, if you will. So I don't know what the deal is with you guys, but you guys really need to step it up with that because it's just not getting better. And one thing I don't like about AEW, they may have a solid episode one week, and then they take 3 steps back the following week, and they right back to square one. Like, they really need to have some level of consistency with that show. They do not have that. It's a level of inconsistency when it comes to AEW Dynamite. And Collision, I'm not going to waste my time watching that show. I mean, that show is probably the next show canceled after AEW Rampage was canceled. So they need to get rid of that show. They need to just keep one show because they're having trouble keeping viewership on Collision. Dynamite is up and down. We'll see how that goes, but I know they have AEW Revolution coming up March 9th. I don't know how many more special episodes they have because it seems like almost once a month or every few weeks, AEW always got a special episode. It's either Winter's Coming, Maximum Carnage, or this episode or that episode, holiday show or that holiday show. I don't know what to do with AEW sometimes. I mean, but episode was not that good. I know it pulled in 679,000, but it was not a great show overall. I thought it was kind of weak. They had a couple good matches there. Kenny Omega Cage, I really didn't care for. I would say the only match that was worth watching, honestly, was Christian Cage versus Hook, I guess. And Hook's not the best wrestler either. Christian Cage, he's doing very good in his storyline. I really can't wait till he win the AEW World title because he does have that contract still. And I know that will be interesting when he does win. But they definitely need a better champion because Jon Moxley's not it. I like Swerve. Swerve was a good champion. MJF was great champion. Samoa Joe, another story. Speaking of which, he did come back. We saw the return of Samoa Joe. He did get a crowd. Joe. That was cool. That was great. I don't know what's going to happen next with Samoa Joe. He's been gone for quite. He was injured after losing the AEW title. But that's all I had of who had the best wrestling race this week. You guys let me know who had the best show, AEW Dynamite or NXT January 14th and 15th. Soon to reveal the pop-up, guys. You already know what it is. OUT.